Hey now, what's up everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka ReviewKingMB, and since I'm doing these original versus remake videos, and with the new Ash vs. Evil Dead TV show that premiered, it only made sense for me to do Evil Dead! Original versus the remake. The original was made in 1981. The remake was made in 2013. The directors, we have Sam Raimi, who obviously this is his baby. He created this. He came up with this. He made this movie in what was it, 78, 79? With virtually no budget. He just took a group of people that he knew, some friends, and went out in the middle of the woods and shot this movie. Why? Because he wanted to. Because he went for it. And in doing so, made this phenomenon. I mean, people loved it at the time. They looked at it as something different and scary and bold. And then it went on to make sequels, spin-offs, remakes, TV shows. It's definitely a cult following, if not more than that. The remake was directed by Fede Alvarez, who I'm not hugely familiar with besides this movie, but judging off of the remake, he's a competent director. I don't think he did a bad job at all. The main characters of each film, we have obviously Ash Williams, played by Bruce Campbell, and I think many people, when they think of Evil Dead, the first thing they think of is Ash. You know, it's almost crazy to think that they did make a remake without an Ash character. Whether it was Bruce Campbell or not, you have to have him there almost, right? And it's not just because Bruce Campbell is so likable, so funny, so charismatic, because that came later. Most people, when they think of the Evil Dead, the original, they think of the over-the-topness, the funniness, the silliness, and maybe they don't realize that that wasn't until Evil Dead 2. The first movie, Sam Raimi wanted it to be scary, wanted it to be horror, and straightforward, serious. And it just, it came off goofier than it should have been. So then that's why they went in that direction. So in the first movie, Ash is more serious. He is a regular guy. So I think that's interesting. In the remake, we have Mia, played by Jane Levy. And you know what? I like her character. I do. She's very flawed, might be an understatement, because she's a drug addict, and all of her friends and her brother have brought her to this cabin. It's not just a group of people going to a cabin in the woods for a trip, because we've seen that before. No, they're bringing her here because she needs to almost detox. She needs to rid her body of these drugs. And when weird things start to happen to her, it makes almost too much sense for why nobody in the cabin believes her, why nobody's willing to leave the place because they think it's just her freaking out over the drugs. So that aspect I like. And I do like the fact that she's a character who does get possessed early on, and she's possessed for most of the movie, but yet she gets saved by the end, and you get to see her survive all of those tragic things, where honestly, when I was first watching it, the last thing I thought of was her possibly surviving. The supporting characters in the original, we have Cheryl, Linda, Scotty, and Shelly. You have Cheryl, who is Ash's sister. That's very interesting, especially because she's the first one to get possessed, and seeing Ash have to deal with what is he going to do about his sister is very interesting. And then his girlfriend Linda is also somebody else who, when she gets possessed, what Ash has to do to her is fucked up. But then when you get to the sequel, it's quite hilarious. Let's talk about the remake. These supporting characters are David, Eric, Natalie, and Olivia. Olivia, by the way, is played by Jessica Lucas, who is so hot. So, of course, she has to get one of the worst and most brutal deaths in the movie, but still pretty memorable. I mean, what she does to her own face is fucked up. Eric, as dumb as he was for going through the Book of the Dead and reading out the passage out loud, even though even the book is telling him not to do it. It's written all over the pages and just, keep out, do not read, don't go any further. But what does he do? He keeps going. Why? But why? I'm sure there's people out there who would have done the same thing, but you want to smack him. At least he comes off as likable. At least he does make jokes. One of the few times where you do get some humor in the remake. David is the brother of Mia. The special effects, the practical effects for the original, obviously, this is bare bones, low budget. So even more so going back to watch it, it might not look the greatest. This is very true. But you'll never, maybe it's because of the way how I look at movies. I look at movies from a completely different way. So I have all too much respect for Sam Raimi and what he was going for, what he was able to pull off for the little money that he did. And the remake, they sold this remake hard on the fact that there was no CGI. They were like, oh, we're the first horror movie in years, and this is true, years to not use CGI. Now, there is some CGI. It's very little CGI, but for the most part, it is practical. And that added to so much in this film, because you do get sick of the cheap CGI in all these horror movies that just, it looks so fake, you instantly get taken out of it. This movie, though, it made an effort to make it look real. The tree scene. Both movies have a tree scene. One worse than the other. The original, you see Cheryl, Ash's sister. She's out in the woods, and she, of course, gets stalked by the tree. I love the camera work by Sam Raimi. Another example of taking, something that you don't have and creating a style for it. The camera being in the point of view of possibly the demon or the tree or whatever, where you're literally following her running, the camera going through the trees and the woods. That became an Evil Dead staple. So that makes it a great scene. But then she gets tangled up by the branches, wrapped up, and the tree only touches her slightly, but still creepy. So when she escapes and she gets to the cabin, she's telling everybody about it. It sounds crazy, but she sounds adamant about, no, this happened to her. Which brings me to the remake, because the remake takes that scene and says, oh, okay, so the tree touched her. Well, what if the tree actually fucked her? Because that's what it does in this movie. It grabs poor Mia. I mean, if I couldn't feel more bad for her, the tree literally grabs her up and rapes her. And it's not so much raping her as it is, I guess, putting the demon physically inside her body, but through there, yeah, it's terrible. And just her reaction to it, the way how she is obviously physically, emotionally scarred from that point on, when she's in her room on her bed and she's just like twitching, and nobody believes her, even her brother, and she feels so alone and isolated, and so much about that scene is I gotta say 10 times more fucked up. But let's talk about the ending. Before I announce the winner, the ending of the original movie is Ash practically has to kill everybody. I mean, everybody ends up getting possessed. Ash is the lone sole survivor. He had to cut his girlfriend's head off until you see, again, that shot with the camera of a demon going through the woods, and it goes through the house. Ash turns around, and he screams into the camera. We can only assume that, I guess, the demon did get Ash at the end of it, which is a downbeat and depressing ending. Sure, I don't love that ending. If there was never a sequel, the ending would probably suck more. But there was a sequel, and we did see that he was possessed. But I did like how you see what happens with that possession. What, I guess, some of the rules are with how the possession works, how if you're out there in the sun, or how it wears off, and seeing Ash be able to fight being possessed. Of course, he had to cut his own hand, and it got goofy after that, but still, the sequel adds a lot to that ending, makes it slightly better. The remake's ending is a lot more conclusive. maybe they planned on doing a sequel, but the ending doesn't seem like it because virtually everybody gets possessed besides the brother. The brother is able to save his sister, which is something I still like how they pulled that off. Then he sacrifices himself, blows up the cabin with himself in it, and the sister is left outside, and it starts to rain blood, which is something that it's a great looking image, blood rain. And then the demon that was possessing her comes out from the ground, and the fact that it was feeding off of her soul, it looks a lot like her, which is creepy. She's running away from a demon that looks like her, and the fight she has with it, the struggle she has with it, the fact that the car ends up landing on her arm, and her arm gets ripped off. Ouch. And then she chainsaws the fuck out of the demon. Awesome. And she wins. Wow. As much as a lot of the people died, as much as I don't care for the brother dying, you still get a somewhat happy ending. Somewhat. So, my verdict, this is gonna sound hard because I know some people are gonna hate me for this, but I'm gonna go with the remake. I know. If I was comparing the remake to Evil Dead 2, we might have a different story. But the original, I still love. I do. And I still admire and respect everything about this. But as far as what I go to first or feel like rewatching, it ends up being the remake, I guess because it's newer and it's something that I like for various reasons. Still though, both movies are great. Let me know in the comments below, what's your thought? What do you think is better? The original Evil Dead or the remake? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!